This is the Biz of Wealth. Challenges, rumblings, and evolution of the wealth management industry.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Business of Wealth. Today, I'm here with Chris Panagiotu. Did I do that right? Great. He's a wealth advisor and a certified financial planner for many years. And we're going to discuss a lot of things here. But let's start with you, Chris. Who are you?
Who am I? Okay. So who am I? First off, thank you for having me on the show. It is a pleasure being here, and it is going to be a lot of fun, and I will try not to be a compliance nightmare for you. So who am I? I'm a husband. I'm a big brother. I'd like to think I'm an incredible son. I've been investing since I was 10. I do drug-free bodybuilding. I'm a God-fearing man. I'm a raging Oregon Duck fan. But most importantly, I'm a capitalizer, which is what my show is all about, capitalize your finances, and being the original Cap and Capitalize. I am out here every single day trying to get people to understand how to be not only successful with their money, but truly capitalize on every aspect of their financial lives. So that's who I am.
We're going to go into that a little later. First, I saw that you mentioned, I'm Argentinian, and I saw that you mentioned you work with a Brazilian organization helping kids. Tell me about that.
Okay. So as far as ACE goes, back at Oregon, there was a group of us that always hung out. And my buddy Dylan, after college, like every college, we all just kind of go our separate ways, try to get into the real world, if you will. And I remember my best friend from college, Mike George, gave me a call and said, "Hey, we're going to need you. Dylan is now living in Brazil," which totally caught me off guard. I'm like, how the heck did that happen? And then he started this nonprofit. And so I was brought in really from well, you gotta understand, the group that I hung out with in college was a fun group. It was me, my best buddy, Mike, who's a financial analyst at Nike. And then there were like 6 or 7 CPAs. So very nerdy, very financial. And then there was Dylan, and Dylan's just a free spirit, awesome guy. And so then when he went down to Brazil, all of these guys get the financial side of things, but from a business growth side of things, they didn't really have that. And so they said, all right, you got to call Chris. And they've known me before I was the Cap and Capitalize. And so they gave me a call, and I've been helping out with them for, I think it's going to be 2 years in January. And it's been an awesome experience. And so what they do is they basically help kids that are significantly less fortunate, which is much more common down there than up in the States, stay off the streets. And they provide them not only with just traditional education, but quote unquote untraditional education. So dance, art, music, things that really inspire the children's minds to think outside of the box. So it's been awesome. Dylan is an absolute rock star. He's grown ACE like it's nobody's business. And I'm just happy to be a part of it. So
that's amazing. I love it. So now let's go into capitalize. What do you mean by, like, what is it? Just a marketing term? What is it that you're talking about when you say, I capitalize people's finances?
Sure. So going back a little bit in time, a little bit more about me, because that'll answer the question a little bit more holistically. I have always been someone that is not quite X. And I mentioned this on my show before. And what I mean by that is, growing up, I was fast, but I wasn't fast enough, or I was strong, but I wasn't strong enough. I wasn't X, whatever that is. But deep, deep, deep down in my gut, I knew I had something special. I didn't have the verbiage or a way to promote any of that when I was little. So then you fast forward really up until 2020, and I got into the world of finance and all that stuff, which we'll talk about today. But I realized that I had something special to give people. And so for my initials, Christopher Panagiotu. Yes, there is some marketing involved with that. However, and I mean this with as much genuineness as possible, it is who I am. If you talk to whether it's my mom or my brother, Ray Lucia Jr., who's become one of my best friends, like my big brother at Lucia Capital Group, our business partners, as far as what a capitalizer is, it is someone that is obsessed with every aspect of their financial life. So you don't want to just understand it. You truly want to capitalize on it. Same thing with health, same thing with life. And that's really who I am. So when I got into health and fitness, I didn't really have anyone. I was blessed to find my coach, Katie Wayman White, and she is like another mother to me. But even before that, I remember in college, I didn't have a playbook. I didn't have someone I could go to. I was not on, some awesome athletic scholarship at Oregon. And so I had to figure it out on my own. And I became obsessed with it. And I'm also a really competitive person. So you dig into all of that. That's a recipe for capitalizing. And so then when I got into business, I said, okay, hold on. I know what I needed to do to capitalize on my health. I didn't know what that term was. I just knew these were the tangibles. So now I just need to apply this to business. And it was hard. It was absolutely hard. In fact, I could go a step further. It was absolute hell for the first couple of years. And even as you start to really churn the business and grow, even though some of those hellish feelings that you have decrease over time, there's always going to be something that replaces it. And so continuously having that go, and that little devil on your shoulder saying you're not good enough. So if you're not good enough, prove me wrong. That's what being a capitalizer is all about. And that's what Capitalize Your Finances is all about, because I want people to understand much more than just, oh, I know this, that, and the other about finance. It's like, no. I got everything on lock and you don't need to worry about it.
So besides your offering, right? We talk to a lot of financial professionals here, and everybody has their own secret sauce. But let's take a look at the capitalized concept from a business building perspective.
Okay.
What did that mean for you to build your business as a financial advisor? What is in practice? What is it that you did differently that made you successful?
Okay. Wow, that's a great question. First things first, anyone that has genuinely built something from scratch, if you ask them that question and they start giving you the play on how they did it, systematically, there may be some truth, but at the very, very beginning, all of that goes out the window. I was listening this morning or yesterday morning when I was working out. I like to listen to some motivation when I get going. And one of the quotes that came up was by Mike Tyson. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yeah, I love that. Yes.
I love that. And I was like, oh, that's pretty good. And so when I started, I thought, oh my gosh, I came from these two big firms. I'm kind of an anomaly. This is just going to all work out. And reality hits you really quick when you realize no one cares. No one really cares about what you're doing. And even though you have loved ones care about you, no one's going to care as much as you. So for me, what I learned very quickly was, okay, everyone's got 24 hours in a day. That's not uncommon to literally everyone else. I know that I need to get out there and I need to have a framework and a process of doing it. And I didn't. So for me, it was literally throw as much on the wall, and I'm keeping it PG, and whatever sticks, sticks. And it wasn't until I would say this was a big turning point for me, 3 to 4 months in to me starting. I came across an article actually by Michael Kitces, okay, well known in the industry. And he basically called it the 3-year rule. And I'm sure there's different variations, but the 3-year rule was, number 1, you become known. Number 2, you become trusted. Number 3, your first clients that came to you in year 1 start to introduce you to other people because you're not completely destitute. You're not another failure. And then after that, year 4 on, the compounding effect in your business starts to take full. So that gave me some confidence because in me, I'm a numbers guy. I'm a quantifiable guy, which is a gift and a curse all at the same time. So I knew, okay, I'm 3 months in. I basically got 2.75 years of utter misery left in my tank. So I really shouldn't feel that bad about myself right now. And it was brutal. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I would come home. I laugh about it now, right? You come home on a Friday night. You want to give yourself a rewarding meal. Well, that doesn't happen. So you come upstairs, you maybe didn't get any business because no one believes in what you're doing like you do. So you're just bawling your eyes out. And then being in drug-free bodybuilding, I reward myself with chicken and rice out of a plastic bag in the fridge. I mean, it's like, it was sad. It was really sad. We can laugh at it now. But I think the biggest thing for me was it really clicked for me when I realized, okay, I'm not in the business of planning. I'm in the business of helping everyone else around me, which sounds really cliche, but how many people actually mean that today? Very few. Like I've been in meetings where people go, Chris, dude, I'm going to help you with every aspect. This. Okay. And then you never hear from them again. But then when you do hear from them again, they say things, but then their actions are this. They're holding their hand out, right? Yeah. For me, I always wish I had someone that would be able to just introduce me to the world, CPAs, attorneys, business partners, fellow podcasters. Okay. And I never had that. So once I started gaining some trust out of these professionals and clients, I did everything I could. Oh, they need an introduction to, as an example, a CPA. I will send out the most entertaining introductions of your life. Mm-hmm. And I also use some humor because by the time people connect, they go, oh, okay. They're kind of laughing at my expense. That's okay. I want people to smile. Life is too short. Exactly. But then the comfort is there because they've already got something that I wish I had that I never did, which is already kind of a layup into an awesome relationship. So that's what really clicked for me in business. And not only for planning, I think for any business in general, if you understand and you are obsessed with what your business is and you really know it, and I mean really know it, you're going to be unstoppable. You're going to be unstoppable.
Wait. You're saying just knowing your business, you're going to be unstoppable? It's not about selling. It's not about networking. It's not about structure or scaling, prioritizing.
That's all part of it. So how should I say this? I'll say it this way. Okay. So if you had a little chart, right? Business, that's the orifice. And then you've got these little legs, right? Networking, scaling, business partners, etc. That's all part of it. It's all part of the framework. And so like for me, I knew right off the bat in our industry, and I had a little bit of a head start because I worked at 2 larger firms before, but nonetheless, I knew that especially in Tacoma, right? Local community, because this was in 2015. So it's not like Zoom wasn't around, but it didn't, like none of that really caught on. So your competition was still in your market, right? So I knew, okay, I need to know the best CPAs and attorneys in town. Now, for me, this is just me. I just knocked on the managing partner's door. No offense to staff accountants, but once you start in the business, in any business, you're not running the ship. Well, if I'm going to ever build a business partnership, it's like, okay, I don't really want to introduce someone to someone that really doesn't know what they're doing. And I need to prove that I know just as much as these partners. So I went big and God had his hand on me. And I got into these meetings. And for whatever reason, these guys go, and gals were going, wow, this guy actually kind of knows a thing or two. He's a character, but he knows a thing or two. And then people have realized, you know what? That's just Chris. That's just who he is. But that's part of knowing your business. Take another business, for example. Okay, I'll use my brother. Okay. One of the best business minds I know. Totally different industry, social media marketing. He knows his business like the back of his hand. And so for my brother and I, when he watches this, I don't want to speak for him, but he may need to know what would be good. Okay, website designers or outsource social media messengers, right? To help out with his messaging so he can really scale and build his brand. And he's an amazing photographer. And so, but for whatever reason, he may need a ghost photographer to help out. Now I'm just kind of making this up. But like, if you're talking to someone, it's kind of an unwritten art to knowing your business. But if you're talking to someone and you just know they've got it together, they're not pitching something that up in the orifice behind them in the ivory tower, someone's telling them what to say. It's genuine. That's how you know, okay, this person knows their business better than any other competitor in their business. That's what I'm talking about. It's the unwritten tangible. You can't quantify it.
No, it's a feeling. And I can tell that there is one thing that you do right that I learned the hard way too, is the shortest way to close any business is to be authentic, not to put on the suit and speak like you're expected to, but to be yourself. That, yes. That's really a good one. But okay, going to wealth management. You went into wealth management and, well, you were in the corporate world, but where do you see the transformation? What do you think is working? What do you think is not working? What are you doing differently?
So taking a trip down memory lane, you got to know where it came from. And I know you know this, but for listeners that maybe don't, way back in the day, there was no such thing as planning, really. I mean, it was, you would invest in a couple investments and then you would talk to a stockbroker who would actually broker these investments. So awful example because it's an awful depiction of what the industry was. But back in the day, it was accurate. The Wolf on Wall Street, you have someone call saying, hey, I got 100 shares of you hang it up, take the Quaaludes and cocaine out of the picture. But like, it was crazy. You would call and people would buy and sell. And, we're on the West Coast. So by the time the market closes at 1:00, all these guys would be down at happy hour and just having the time of their lives. Then you fast forward through, I would say really the .com era is when the planning side really started to take off. And then you got the understanding of, oh, now you're managing assets under management. And so that was a different model where you're not having to call every single day to churn and burn. You're actually providing comprehensive investment advice. Well, then you fast forward a little bit more and planning really started to take on where you're not only doing investments, but you may do some insurance. You may do some annuity. You may do now even some real estate. But all of this was in consumers' minds, very transactional. And again, I mentioned Ray Lucia Jr. I'm going to mention him again because he's incredibly influential in my life. We were talking a couple of years ago about where the industry is changing. And he brought it to my attention, this whole flat fee cost, or maybe even hourly, I think that's going to catch on. And then I also remember one of my CPA partners telling me, why don't you build your practice like I build mine? I go, well, what do you mean by that? So if you have a CPA, and for those of you that do or don't, you go into a CPA's office. It doesn't matter if you have $10 or $100 million. There's probably a flat cost just to get in the door. However, let's say you have a business, ancillary cost to that. Let's say you have a trust. There's an ancillary cost to the trust. Let's say that you have a partnership, right? And so on and so forth. There's all of these things around, but there's the core cost of just getting in the door. And that hit me like a ton of bricks when you combine Ray Jr. with what the CPA was telling me. And that's where I started using, it's not an either or, it's an and, right? So I think to answer your question, where we're at today, the whole idea of managing assets for a recurring cost, there's a ton of validity to that. I don't think that's going away. I could actually make an argument for commission stuff, very technical term, commission stuff, for some alternatives or annuities or insurance. Some of it you can't really get around. But there are times where it's actually more prudent to charge that. Then you get into the whole comprehensive side of things. I know a number of my friends. So I'm 30 years old. So, and this is Tacoma. It's not Wall Street. So it's not like, you got a ton of tech people just walking around with hundreds of millions of dollars, which is an extreme. But you get my point. There's no alignment of helping people, but then also being profitable from a business standpoint and prudent. And so
unless you charge for the advice.
That's where the advice comes into play. The one that I'm still kind of setting back on, and I personally have not done this because for clients, when they come in, we never charge for an initial meeting. And we don't charge for a plan. We really charge once we earn the trust, which again, you're maybe sacrificing a lot because there's some people that'll use you and then turn around and basically, give you the bird and tell you to peace out. But for every one of those, there's dozens of people that value the fact that, wow, you're putting your neck out there to really earn every aspect and ounce of my trust. I don't really see the hourly side catching on as much. However, I can at least see the validity to it. So long-winded answer to answer your question, where the industry's headed. There's a lot of things that are here to stay. The recurring assets, the commission side of things, the recurring fee. But I think what's going to happen is you're going to start to sprinkle in the hourly. And you have to be open to what a client is able to afford. And then also what's more appropriate for them.
But you're now that you said your age, you're very young. And your generation actually is very much used to what I call a very self-sufficient and self-service type of experience. So that's why we saw the Betterments and the Wealthfronts of the world catching on, and even Robinhood. They're all catching on because I feel it is a transition in the mindset of the services that we get. And we're not expecting a person to be behind them anymore. We're expecting a team. We're expecting a platform. We're expecting a technology. So I think that there is a larger transformation behind that in your generation and even in mine. In that sense, do you agree? Would you how the individual financial advisor survives that?
So there was a couple of thoughts that I had as you were describing all of that. Number one, go back to the Mike Tyson quote, because it's really good, right? Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. What I mean by that is in our industry, so you got to understand, when I started with Lucia in 2015, which wasn't that long ago, but a lot has changed and a lot has happened. One thing that's happened, and I'm not degrading any investment person out there, it has not been all that tough to do really well in investing. Because the market from 2015 through today, forget the little COVID bump that we had.
More to the case to me, like anybody that was invested anywhere in any robo-advisor, they didn't need anything.
Didn't need anything, right?
They only needed psychological support when the market crashed. That's all they needed.
Right. Yeah. So you get that. What I will say is, and I mentioned this, so when I went on Retireaholics. This was a couple months back. They were asking me something about kind of where the industry is headed, and something similar. And I remember bringing up, I call it the Googling answer. So when you want to know an answer to something and it's pretty surface level, you Google it. So, okay. Like my wife and I were even laughing last night. We Googled, what was it? We Googled, what is the world record of most slices of pizza eaten in an hour? I'm not even going to bring it up because it's just disgusting. But like, that's a very surface answer, right? It's very black and white. In advising or planning, people will go, hey, is a stock good? So they Google it. And frankly, whoever's paid Google enough dollars is going to get the top answer. And at the end of the day, it's probably going to be a yes or no, because most people don't like to critically think as deep into the weeds, right? So when you look at the investment side of things, people go, yeah, right. I mean, robotic advice, it's been great. You've had this passive investment portfolio. Frankly, because investments have done so well, even if you pay a little bit of tax, just to be frank, why the hell do you care? Everything's gone up in theory. Now, I think for technology, it's valuable. However, I think the most successful advisors and planners understand that if you're giving comprehensive investment advice, like you were in the early 2000s, you're going to be dead pretty quick, because the industry's past that. I'm not saying investment advisors and asset managers are going to go extinct. I don't think that. But I think if you come out as an advisor, especially as a planner, I personally think financial advisors are going to be probably extinct within a decade, because that's where the industry is headed. But if you just come out and say, I promote investment advice, or if you sell on performance, you're going to get hurt. Never sell on performance. That's just silly. That's like a cardinal sin in our industry. I mean, that's literally prohibited. Yeah. But I think the next time, so go back to the COVID correction or the COVID bump, okay, or whatever you want to call it. Market was down for like 2 months. I mean, it was the quickest recession in the history of the United States. Imagine if that was down for 2 years, because unfortunately the human mind has a very quick memory, and it ain't good. It's like a goldfish. I mean, it's bad, especially in my generation, right? So you look at that and you go, oh, by the time your May statement came out, everything's back to square one. I go, yeah, all right, that was tough, I guess, but like back to the drawing board, and everything just comes off. I'm not going to go into the tangent of, people keep dumping money and printing money into the economy. I'm not here to go on that tangent.
Please don't.
But, and I won't. But what I will say is, for the purpose of what we're talking about, that is false confidence. And there will become a reality when that false confidence goes away. And then you go and you call up the robot, and the robot says, we don't do calls, call our service center. And then you call the service center. You're already mad because your portfolio's down. You can't talk to anyone. You're on hold for 45 minutes. And then you probably are tossed off to some kid in college that just got out 3 months ago, and they've got a spreadsheet that they have to answer based on your questions, and it really does nothing. And then everyone's mad and sad. So it's one of those things. It's a long-winded answer of saying, as far as technology and all that, that's fine. However, and even the smartest people I know in this business, the more you rely on technology, the less you rely on yourself. And there's something to be said about connecting with human interaction. And if a human really understands what they're doing, and you compound that with the emotional connection to these people, you're unstoppable.
So you said that, and I have that discussion often about the financial advisor, the wealth planner becoming more of a coach than a actual numbers guy, right? Because you have to interact in all of the aspects of a client's life. And that's where we started. You said, I build relationships, I help people, and then I get to the business. How do you do that? You are yourself. I can see you, you relate to people. Who do you relate with the most? And talking about your generation, what do they look for in you?
I caught myself from getting in trouble because I could have gone on another tangent, but I didn't.
No, go.
So for my generation specifically, I don't know if I'm exactly the best person to ask for that. And I bring that up with all due respect. So going back to when I started realizing the average. So when I was, big math here, 30 minus 7, 23. Okay. When I was 23, all the people that I was surrounding myself with, like these managing partners of whatever it is, CPAs, law firms, insurance, like they were older than me. I mean, not egregiously older, but like they were mid 40s at the earliest, and then mid 50s. And so then when I was talking to a number of my friends at that point, I'm like, gosh, let's build something. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's get after it. They look at their watch, say, that sounds great, but like, I gotta get back to the office at 1. It's like 1:45. It's like, dude, like, come on, like, let's go. So then you roll up your sleeves. You're like, all right, well, I'll just do the best that I can for myself. Because again, you go back to it. No one cares as much as you. So now you fast forward. In fact, I was talking to my teammate about this a couple of days ago, Betty Kimmery, the best teammate you could ever ask for. And we were kind of laughing because some of these people now are coming to me saying, dude, we need to start doing some business together. I'm like, whoa. Where were you 7 years ago? What were you doing? What are you doing now? And so now it's the handout. It's different if you just came into my life, and I get that. You can't control that. There's only one person that can control that. But when you look at the timeline of all these people that have basically just sat back, and unfortunately, that's not just my generation. That's the majority of people out there. You kind of want to sit back and you get the handout. And it is what it is. And I'm not degrading anyone or saying anything bad about anyone specifically. It's just the way that it is. What I will say, what I've gotten to now is in 2020, and that's what actually started the whole process of my show, was utter fear. I realized toward the end of the year, like it was like there were some sparks. Like I had something, but I didn't really know what. And then I realized, okay, you use the blessings that God gives you. I'm not an introvert, but I'm an extrovert, and I'm kind of a character. And I also love what I do. And I found something special. So let me construct a wrapper and literally give it to everyone that's listening to me. Because if for whatever reason I never get to meet you in my life, it makes me feel so good that I helped someone that listened to a show, and that one snippet, that 5 minutes completely changed their life. That sounds really stereotypical, but like I had someone in Maryland. I remember this vividly. I was maybe 4 episodes in, messaged me on LinkedIn, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So he calls me, and it was the first time in my life where it was different than, oh, hey, you were referred by a CPA or a client or whatever to, oh my gosh, the Cap and Capitalize is here. And I'm thinking, I'm a normal guy, that's just me. But I realized very quickly, okay, that little snippet of a spark, I had to double down on. When in doubt, you even go deeper into the truth, which again, full circle, that's what Capitalize Your Finances is about. Because if I give something too general, that could hurt someone. And I that actually keeps me up at night. There isn't much that keeps me up
like
at
a
night.
General advice that, can be
Yeah. So like
Googling your symptoms when you're sick.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not going to knock WebMD because WebMD's got a ton of answers, but
Never.
I mean, I joke about this a lot, right? So I have a really good buddy, and he knows exactly who he is, which I'll name. It'll remain nameless, but absolute hypochondriac. Like if his pinky toe's asleep, he's got 10 days to live. I mean, there's no middle ground. And so you look that up on WebMD, it's like, no, like just because your pinky toe is asleep, you did not just have a stroke, right? Like just chill out, right? But going back to, building something that you really just want to give back to people and give them the tools, that's huge. Because it's different than, and again, I'm not going to knock anyone, but like, I'll just take Dave Ramsey, for example. When people listen into Dave Ramsey or their followers or listeners, it's almost like whatever he says, it is gospel. And again, that's not totally black and white, but you get the gist. Like I'll have people come in and say, hey, well, I listened to Dave Ramsey and he said, I got to do this, this, and this. And they follow it to a T. Capitalize your finances. The difference is, yes, I'm the Captain Capitalize. I'm giving it to you, but I'm guiding you. You're the one. You're the Ramsey in this case. I'm not. And I think that's pretty empowering because if you give people that ability to understand that, you know what, they've actually had all of the tools all along. I'm just giving you some specifics in some strategery, which I don't know if it's a word, but it is now, on guiding you strategically through something where now you have a concrete process on true planning, not something where you go on some wealth manager's website or advisor, or whatever you want to call it, and they have really the stereotypical stuff, but then you don't even know what that means, right? Mm-hmm. I've asked people this before. I'm like, okay, so you went to this person's office. That's fine. That's good. So what does that mean? Like, what does their process mean? Did they actually explain it to you? And when I hear it, I'm sure it's the same with you. And actually a lot of people have told me this. It's kind of it's the same thing, but there's no specific process. There's no framework.
Oh, no clarity either. Yeah.
None. So that's, I kind of went on another tangent there, but that's kind of why I do what I do on my show, because I'm giving you actually have it all along. I'm just kind of here to empower you, inspire you to maybe correct a couple steers on the ship because you're still going. I don't want you to hit any icebergs along the way.
Okay. This was, we're running out of time, but I would go forever. Let's just, close with this. Tell me something that, well, you told me several things, but tell me something that it's true that almost nobody agrees with you on.
Something that almost nobody agrees with me on that's true.
Something that you fight. Yeah, that you say, no, I really believe in this.
That's a good one.
You go against the current.
Well, I said a little bit about it. I said just a hair about it, but I'll repeat it. I read The Intelligent Investor by Ben Graham. Didn't comprehend hardly any of it. Okay, that was Warren Buffett's teacher. People that have listened to my show, they've heard that spiel many times. What was cool about Ben Graham is he was kind of the first one to give a framework into understanding the process of investing. And, then you've got Warren Buffett, who I love him, but he's an expert at answering everything and nothing all at the same time. Like it's this philosophical thing and you're going, what in the heck did he just say? But I think it makes sense. But deep down, you have no idea.
You don't know what to do with it. Like you see it's philosophical, but you don't know what to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, I call it the Ricky Bobby. Everyone's pulling the Ricky Bobby, right? He doesn't know what to do with his hands in the interview. So they just kind of put it up. He's totally confused. But as far as what people don't know and what I think is very valid and true, is there's really no concrete process out there from a planning perspective. That's what Ben Graham laid out on the investment side, but no one really had it on a planning side. And there was nothing out there that was specifically empowering to the consumer. A lot of people in our industry, they try to keep everything behind closed doors, and they have the Warren Buffett answering mechanism, right? They'll kind of tell you enough, but just enough to keep you interested.
I'm never going to show you the recipe. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, well, hold on a sec. That doesn't make any sense, because you're not going to be able to help everyone. And then you kind of just look like a jerk. Like you kind of look like a pompous jerk. For me, it's like, I don't want that. I want to give you as much as I can. And obviously there's some things I can't, because frankly, no one wants to really know how the watch is made deep down, which is why people pay for me anyways, or listen to my show. But then there are other times where if you do give too much, you're actually doing someone a disservice. And I have been critical on myself, and I'll be very honest. I've done that one too many times. And if you give someone too much, they don't do any action. Nothing's going to get done. Nothing gets done. Now that person's going to be hurt in the long run. And that just...
Yeah. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking to a longtime friend, and he's he used to be a trader, and he mentioned that it's like the curse of knowing too much sometimes. He kept telling us, we were talking, and he taught me a lot about investing and everything. And whenever, the latest trend comes along, I always speak to him and say, should I be doing this? Should I be doing that? And at the same time, it's like, well, the curse of knowing too much is that the pitfalls, where it can go wrong. And sometimes that paralyzes you. So that's where I think a lot of advisors stay on the safe side, or the benefit side, because if you really go into all of the side effects of every single drug, you're never going to take a drug in your life, right? So I think that's where you're coming from. Okay.
Yeah.
One last question: if you could have a billboard with anything on it in the middle of the most the busiest road in Tomahawk, what would it say?
If I could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it say? That's an easy one. That's a really easy one. What part, because we glitched out, of your finances would you like to capitalize today? That would be it. Done.
Great meeting you, Chris. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. And if you ever want to have me back, I'd be more than honored. And for those of you listening in, you can catch me on Capitalize Your Finances on Spotify. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. I promise I do not bite, I don't nip, and I will respond as entertainingly as imaginable.
That I can attest. Yes.
Thank you.